Hey guys, it's Brian Mayer with the Mayer Group at eXp Realty, and I have a special guest with me today, Mr. Tim Murphy with CNF Mortgage. How you doing, Tim?
Dude, doing phenomenal.
All right, so a lot of people have been messaging me, asking me about what do I think about buying a house right now, and I will say that, I realize everybody has a different comfort level with the way things are going right now. Everybody has different opinions on what people should and should not be doing, and I don't want to what I'll say about that is there are people that need to buy a house. There are people that need to sell a house. I don't think that this situation is going away anytime in the very near future. And, people still need to move. So what we're doing in order to make it safe for everybody is we're taking extreme precautions: face masks, gloves, vacant showings, videoing everything. I just put a video up of a listing. I had 7,000 views on it the other day. So there's definitely ways to do this safely, in my opinion. And if somebody was thinking about buying, Tim, I just want to get your thoughts on things like what's the news on the buying side of the world? What's going on?
Brian, I think you pointed it specifically exactly what's happening. People are buying houses and people are selling houses. I mean, it has not stopped. So there's still quite a lot of activity out there. Quite frankly, there's a lot of deals out there as well because people are motivated to get through the process.
Yeah.
I think they are being very cautious, in the process itself from start to finish. From seeing the house to settling, I've seen settlements where it's just been the buyers and a settlement, an officer.
Yeah,
it's a unique world, but you can still go through the process. Now, as far as the lending side, I mean, rates are at a historical low, and I think Brian, you always talk about this. When you're buying a house, what's the driver? Give me the angle on that side.
That's a good point, Tim. So I've had people say to me like, well, what if we wait and, the market seems to be a little unsettled. What if we wait to see if we can get a better deal on a house? So I can understand that thought process. But just, 2 weeks ago, Tim, rates went from 3.5 to 4.5 in 1 day. Is that right?
Yeah, they did skyrocket. We did see a massive move, and it was because of some tightening that was going on, some liquidity issues in the government side. So we did have a big move. And Brian, we've also seen a lot of changes in guidelines, which I think we need to hit afterwards as well.
Yeah, but let's go back to the interest rates. So if interest rates went from 3.5 to 4.5, that represents 10% in the payment, 10% in the buying power. So just as an example, a $400,000 house, at 4.5, the payment will be the same as a $360,000 house with the interest rate at 3.5, give or take, right? That's about accurate, right, Tim?
So the payment on a $400,000 house at 3.5 would be the same payment basically on a $360,000 house, right? At 4.5.
I thought that's what I just said, Tim.
It was actually reversed.
Okay.
But what you're saying is the higher the rate, right, the less buying power. And you're right on the money, man. You really are. So, and that's the concern is, will interest rates continue to rise? Does your buying power then begin to drift down?
Right.
And that's a critical point. I mean, you've got, you're right there on that one.
So I actually just met a lady yesterday who said she was thinking about waiting 6 months to get her house ready to sell. And I said, everybody's situation is different. It depends on what your goals are. But one of the things that you really need to consider is how interest rates and loan guidelines and all of those things could affect your ability to buy. And also, if house prices do go down, usually everybody who sells a house has to buy a house. Everybody who buys a house doesn't necessarily have a house to sell, but a lot of people do. And it becomes relative. Like the house that you want to buy, maybe it's worth less, but now the house you're selling might also be worth less. The deal, again, to me is the interest rate. Because again, let's say you saved $10,000, you got a great deal because of COVID. You got $10,000 off your house, but interest rates went up even 0.5% on a $400,000 house. They just went up $20,000 in as far as what your payment would be, and you stretch that payment out over 10 or 20 or 30 years. It's far more than a little bit amount of money. So the only point I'm trying to make is interest rates being low is a good motivator and something to very, very much consider when making a decision.
And I think it's key also too, Brian, as this pandemic evolves, we're looking to see, and this is the kind of sad part, a lot of the mortgage companies, a lot of the mortgage products are tightening down on the FICO scores. They're tightening down the debt to income ratios, and they're tightening down on some of the grant programs, the down payment assistance. So that's the other maybe motivating factor to really consider jumping in now versus waiting, because we don't know how those products are going to evolve over the next 6 months to a year.
Absolutely. So when somebody was able to buy a house with a 620 credit score, 2 weeks later they needed a 640 credit score, and now recently it's up to
it's still 640, but it depends. Now 640 without a grant program, right, or down payment assistance. But a 700 now if you want to take advantage of certain grants and DSELFs. So we've definitely seen changes, and unfortunately, Brian, it's every day we see a change. So that's why I tell people, if you have that need to buy, or your family's expanded, or you're moving into the area, or you just need a larger home, you definitely want to see what's out there. You definitely want to see what's available.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people, the first jump they always go to is send me the list of houses. Let me look at the houses and talk about the houses. And, having a financing background, having worked for Tim Murphy at a previous life of mine, the first thought I always go to is the financing, and how does the financing really affect all these decisions? Because at the end of the day, you got to pay for it. You got to get financing, and all of those things change. And
right.
Back in the day when you were able to get, down payment assistance to cover all the closing costs and get a no money down loan with a 620 credit score and a $500 deposit, maybe some of that is not, in our future. And maybe we need to start considering, how that's going to affect things. But in any case, my advice is call Tim and just have a conversation. Just talk to him. Say, hey, what do you think? Here's my situation.
Right.
And Tim doesn't necessarily need to pull your credit, just have a conversation.
And I always tell people, look, you know what? The biggest drawback I find for most people is just fear. They're afraid. And I tell people, take the first step. Call. We don't charge for discussions.
You can do a Zoom call, which is what we're on right here. You can do a video conference with Tim. Ask him all the questions. It's free. It's safe. There's no way to spread any germs over this video camera. And just get familiar with what you can and can't do.
Right.
How long is it going to take? How much cash are you going to need?
Where your scores are, what products are available.
What's your payment going to be?
Exactly,
all that good
right.
stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Tim.
All right, Brian.
Thanks for joining me.
Talk to you soon, sir.
Have a good day.
Bye.